Saturday, the battle for bowl eligibility in Madison. Both teams 5-5. Huskers, Badgers, both teams 3-4 in conference play. We're joined now by Husker Online Sean Callahan. Sean, good morning. The big question for Nebraska, really the whole season, has been the quarterback position. Kind of musical chairs there between Jeff Sims, Heinrich Harburg, and Chubba Purdy. We saw all three play against Maryland. All three struggled against Maryland, but Chubba Purdy had a nice drive, but ended up with a pick. The pick was what was the problem there. But I would Sean, I'd ask you, for Saturday, will you be surprised at this point if it's not Chubba Purdy starting for Nebraska against Wisconsin?
If Chubba's healthy and can prove through the week, his injury situation, and he can manage it, I think he is the guy. And that's probably what's going on right now. Harburg appears that his ankle is going to limit him, or he's not even practicing right now. So it's a matter of if Chubba can make it through this week, I think they go with him on Saturday.
I'm going to take you a different direction here, Sean. The guys were wondering, when you decide if we're driving or flying to Madison, what is the decision-making process that you go through?
Time, number one. Like, I think about next week. I have to work all day, Monday and Tuesday, on television for the state championship football games. So I don't want to be driving 8 hours on Sunday when I have to work 4 big games on Monday, Tuesday, especially at week 13 of the football season.
Okay.
When you've been through a lot of hours and work. But if you can fly to Lincoln, I mean, we're gonna leave on Sunday at 10:45 or 10:50 from Madison Airport. We'll be back in Lincoln by 2:30.
Where's this direct flight?
No, it's just a 45-minute layover. So,
wow.
If we drove, it's a hard 8 hours. Yeah, that's a tough 7.
No, I've driven it 30 times, Sean, and it's never taken me 8 hours. I've got 30 times that I've done it. Did it this summer in 6:48.
6:48. Iowa City, right? Yeah. And then it's another 3 hours from Iowa City.
Whatever. I'm just telling you what it takes me to drive it there. It's not 8 hours.
Bill has a lead foot to it. It's a lead foot bill over here.
7 plus is probably, but
so
it's mainly because we don't want Sipple to have to do a driving shift either. Let Sipple get his rest.
That's a solid idea.
Let's get smart.
Where is our layover? Is it in Chicago?
Yeah, it's in Chicago.
Okay. So the concern is that we'll get caught in Chicago. I haven't thought about any of this till right now. Are you concerned about
caught in Chicago? You can just drive to Madison from Chicago. It's not a bad drive. I mean, it's doable. But yeah, we've done it that way. I mean, I think Iowa has been the only one, and now Minnesota. Once Lincoln Airport got rid of the Minneapolis flights, we drove to Minnesota this year. But when you could go LNK to Minneapolis direct, you could be in Minneapolis in 45 minutes.
I got to think about this stuff more. That's what I learned today. I just
focus on the travel.
Yeah, I just go.
Focus on the travel.
A couple of hours doesn't mean a whole lot to me, to be honest.
Joined by Husker Online Sean Callahan. Sean, regarding this game for Nebraska, again, of course, quarterback, the big question for the Huskers, but Wisconsin is in a world of hurt. I mean, they lose 24-10 at Camp Randall to Northwestern this past week, and now they're both those teams are 5-5. Everyone is worried about Nebraska, and Nebraska is now a 7-point dog. I mean, what do you think we'll see from Wisconsin, who has been falling apart with losses back-to-back to Indiana and Northwestern?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a year one situation there. He's trying to kind of establish what he wants to do. It's a drastic change, in terms of some of the things they're doing on offense. And, they've had some injuries to key players. But they've had a great schedule, too. I mean, their schedule would be on par with Nebraska. So that's what's surprising because, their Vegas over-under, guys, was 9.5 wins.
Oh, boy.
And, they were co-picks to win the West in that Cleveland poll. They tied with Iowa. I voted for Iowa. I was one of the votes on that. And I didn't really like anybody to win the West, but I thought Iowa had, just the most complete team returning. And they had an established system, and that was why I voted Iowa way back in the summer over Wisconsin, just because you just didn't know what it was going to look like, and you knew last year Wisconsin, they struggled down the stretch. So their injuries and losing back-to-back weeks to Northwestern and Indiana.
Yeah,
that's. And by the way, Jake, the line's at 4.5.
4.5 now. It's dropped.
It's dropped quite a bit, so it's. You just haven't seen Wisconsin lose games like that over their stretch. I mean, they feasted on cupcakes like that, and that's how they dominated the Big Ten West over the era of the West.
So, Sean, have you looked at them I haven't looked at Wisconsin all that closely. It's Wednesday morning. I'll do it today at some point.
I'm glad I'm paying you, Sid.
What have you been? You know they play Wisconsin, right?
I know
that's the reason you haven't looked at it.
Monday and Tuesdays are busy. So what is the issue? What's the problem?
They don't have the receivers, to run the system, the air raid system. I mean, they're lacking some of the personnel pieces. I mean, I still think they've got guys. When Mordecai was healthy, he's healthy again now, but he could move around. He's got to run around a little bit. But when you lose those two running backs, and Braylon Allen is back, he's on a bad ankle. But Braylon Allen is probably the best player in the Big Ten West, and you take him out of it and make him a limited player. I mean, they're just not the same offense. When you had a guaranteed 100-yard rusher every game, you can do a lot of things around him, and they haven't had that here over the last several weeks.
Nebraska's quarterbacks against Maryland were 10 for 21, 86 yards, no touchdowns, 4 interceptions.
Is that bad?
It's painful to say that out loud, but that's what it was for the Huskers. And they still ran the ball way more than they passed it. But, Sean, against Wisconsin, I mean, what's the strategy to victory? You got to find a way to put enough points on the board. Hopefully the defense shows up and keeps them to a low point. But what's the strategy for Nebraska on Saturday for a victory?
I mean, their formula typically has been run it about 40 to 45 times and throw it about 20 to 25 times. And they're a 40-20-ish type team every game. But, yeah, that last week was crazy. I mean, they were one off of tying the school record for interceptions in a game, which was last set in 2004 in Lubbock, Texas against Texas Tech. That day they threw it over 40 times. So they almost set the school record interceptions in nearly less than half the attempts. It just, they don't want to throw it, but there's going to be situations where you have to throw it and do certain things. And some of those interceptions are just inexcusable, and they just got to put the quarterbacks in better situations. Hopefully if Chuba is the guy, he's better prepared. I mean, he ran scouts a lot of the week. He didn't get a lot of play reps because you can't really rep the third guy a ton over the course of a game week.
Last thing, Sean, regarding a coach on the roster, on the staff, Tony White named was one of 57 nominees for the Broyles Award for the top assistant coach in college football. How tough is it going to be to keep him around in Lincoln next year with all the accolades he's going on with him?
A lot just depends on what Tony White wants to do right now. I mean, if he's going to pursue head jobs, everyone's well aware he was at San Diego State for 9 years. That job will open, but Sip has mentioned to me that San Diego State's looking offensive guy.
They might be.
Not defensive guy. USC, they have a coordinator open there. UCLA sounds like they're going to have a head coach. He's got the West Coast ties and connections as a cut guy, so everyone just assumes that's a spot for him. But I do believe he'll be a head coach or wants to be a head coach. It's a matter of kind of when that opportunity that makes sense, if it comes his way.
Sean, always good stuff. Safe travels to Madison, and we will chat with you again next week.
All right, guys. Thank you.
That's Sean Callahan, Husker on.